And now, join me in welcoming the founder and CEO of Handshakes. From Austin, Texas, here's Jason Wesbecher.
Thank you. Thank you. The hashtag for our talk today is Sell Like You Date. Today, I'd like to speak with you about the increasingly perilous state of B2B customer relationships. Do you ever get a sense that these relationships are like a series of dates in which the vendor has to bring their A game to every single interaction just to earn the right at another date? And given the amount of choice that's in the marketplace, customers can be extraordinarily fickle. Didn't always used to be this way, of course. As recent as a decade ago, the vendor actually had all of the leverage in this conversation, but in today's economic environment, that power dynamic has completely flipped. And as a result, the customer is just not that into you. They don't have to be. I'm here today to share with you some strategies to fix that. The big idea is that it's not about us anymore. It's about the customer. Now, of course, the notion of customer centricity is nothing new. 50 years ago, Wharton professors were writing academic papers on how businesses should reorganize their processes around the needs of the customer, but pretty much every iteration of that failed to produce a durable result. But there's something different about this moment in time, something that will severely punish vendors who fail to take meaningful action. And given the amount of information that's on the web, coupled with your customer's ability to source unique insights about your products and services through their social channels, has permanently altered the balance of power in B2B. The implications of this change are nothing short of staggering. The rigid, transaction-based mindsets that have sustained sales and marketing organizations for the last 50 years today produce forecast results that are less reliable than what any one of us can go achieve at the craps table tonight. The fact is, we can't bring 20th century approaches to solve these 21st century problems. George Harrison famously said that the Beatles saved the world from boredom. It's now our opportunity to save our customers from boredom. How do we do that? By engaging them. Engaging them in authentic conversations that drive meaningful business outcomes. Engaging them on the web, in a sales call, in a post-sale interaction. The economics of engagement are profound, which is why 90% of CEOs say customer engagement is their #1 strategic imperative. Customers who are engaged have 23% more lifetime value than customers who aren't. To put that into absolute terms, a mere 1% improvement in customer engagement can yield tens of millions of dollars to the bottom line. Customers who are engaged are advocates for your brand, they're fans of you, they buy more of your stuff, but unfortunately, there's these series of challenges in your way of earning that engagement. Your content oftentimes is inwardly focused and stale. Your process sometimes focuses more on how you want to sell your products and less on how the customer wants to buy them. And the tools that you use with your customers often don't differentiate how you go to market. They tend to mechanize the customer relationship rather than enable and engage it. So at this point, you're probably saying, who is this guy and why is he saying these things? Contrary to popular belief, I'm not the head of a boy band, 93 Degrees. I'm the founder and CEO of an enterprise software company called Handshakes. And what we do is we build software that helps companies like you grow closer to your customers when it matters most, in the opportunity cycle. Once your customer said, I'm interested in your products and services, we provide a set of technology tools that help you get from that interest to closure. We have the benefit then of analyzing thousands and thousands of B2B buyer-seller interactions, and we learn some fascinating things about how people sell, how people want to buy, and we surface these patterns to our sales and marketing clients so that they can improve their sales and marketing processes. And in the run-up to our event today, we went and surveyed 168 B2B sales reps to try to get a sense as to what was on their mind about this changing economic environment. Given that we're in Vegas, we thought we'd start with one of the more provocative survey questions. Did you know that half of your sales reps admit to embarrassing themselves at a club trip? Imagine what that survey would look like if this were anonymous. But we also asked some really important questions as to what sales reps feel about who's doing the heavy lifting in the sales cycle. The vast majority of them say that 80% of their leads come from their own efforts, specifically their offline social network at the country club, their online social network, LinkedIn, and their cold calling efforts. They feel like they've been abandoned by the marketing department, which probably explains why when forced to make a choice, 60% of these reps say the CMO needs to go. Let's improve this picture. So today I'd like to share with you 3 very specific strategies to create more engaged customer relationships. Number 1, inspire. Inspire your customers with the content that you put in front of them. Number 2, energize. Energize your sales process by focusing on the group buying dynamics within your customer's environment, how they want to buy your products. And number 3, differentiate. Differentiate yourselves with the tools that you use with your customer. So we talked at the beginning about how B2B is a lot like dating. And we've all seen really bad dating behaviors up close and in person. What we'd like to do to introduce these 3 themes today is show you a short video vignette of some really, really bad dating behaviors that speak to each theme. Let's begin with content. The challenge with content today is that it tends to be inwardly focused on your products and services and not on the needs and business issues that your customers want to solve. I'm going to show you a short video vignette right now of a group of guys trying their hand at speed dating. They think that they have tremendous content about their W-2s, their physiques, the cars they drive. This content they find very compelling. The woman that they're trying to date, she's not so convinced. Let's watch.
I know what you're thinking. Am I good looking? Check. Do I make a lot of money? Check. Am I going places? Double check.
I mean, did you see that car on the outside of this building? Bloop, bloop. That's right.
I just spent 10 years in rehab.
Okay.
For sex addiction.
Wow.
So you can imagine how good I am.
This whole dating thing would be a lot easier if I could just like tattoo my net worth across my forehead.
Your forehead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you get tired of sleeping with 10s all the time. Now I'm just back down to 5s. You know, I mean, it's half as much work. It's easy.
Wow.
I go to the gym so much.
You do?
Every day. I should work there. I do work there. Is that cool?
I'm a little bit English,
Okay.
but I'm like a basset hound. I get after what I want. I'm also a little bit Italian and Spanish
Interesting.
and Native American and regular American. You know what my favorite kind of race is?
What?
The race to home base.
Do you want to lay down on the rug?
Yeah, no, I love cats, yeah.
Cool.
Meow. And I really feel like we're connecting here. I mean, I really,
Yeah. Good luck with that.
yeah.
How many sales calls have you been on in which the sales rep stands in front of the room and basically says, me, 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 me? That's not effective in terms of your pursuit. It's not moving the customer. It's not changing the customer's thinking about their business problem that they're trying to solve. This is Oracle's homepage. Now, I don't mean to single them out. I actually worked for them once. But it's a laundry list of features and functions. And like many B2B websites, it doesn't speak to the business issues and the challenges that the customer is trying to solve. The survey of sales reps that we had totally validates this. We talked to them and they said that 41% of them said that the vast majority of the content that comes from marketing in terms of product slicks and sales decks is actually the least valuable content that they use in their sales processes. You know, content marketing is more important than ever. So why then is the sales team using the exact same PowerPoint presentation today that they used 25 years ago? You know the one I'm talking about, the one that starts with the About Us slide. the About Us slide with the bold proclamation that we are the leading provider of isometric widgets. And then it quickly transitions into the slide that the sales rep actually spent a lot of time building. She stayed up really late the night before and took every logo of every customer you've ever done business with and pasted it in painstaking detail onto a single slide to prove to the customer that you guys have breadth. That kind of content is just not compelling to the customer because it doesn't teach them anything, nor does it address the actual business problem that they're trying to solve. So what kind of content does compel? Well, HubSpot will tell you that the vast majority of B2B buyers care for thought leadership content more than advertising content. So what's thought leadership content? Well, could be a CEB research paper, could be one of your best practices white papers, a Harvard Business Review article, a McKinsey blog post. It's content that helps the customer reframe their thinking about the challenges that they're facing and the problem that they're trying to solve. Aberdeen did a survey of marketers last year, and they found that those marketers that used rich media in their campaigns had twice the impact on the sales pipeline than those who didn't. So what's rich media? Well, it's infographics, it's videos, it's animations. And it's no wonder that the enterprise is awash in video right now. You know, we live in a 140-character society in which the value is placed on the brevity of the text and the beauty of the image. You know, take Facebook, for instance. We share 300 million photos and videos every day on Facebook. And they receive 180% more engagement than anything that we ever write. Brightcove, which serves 1 billion monthly video views, says that companies that use video as part of their sales process can see up to a 36% increase in sales. So I mentioned that we have the privilege of analyzing thousands of B2B buyer-seller interactions, and we find these interesting patterns that we then come back to our sales and marketing clients with improvement ideas around. One of the things that we found completely validates this assertion. In our customers' closed-won deals, they find that their buyers consume 65% more of their rich media and thought leadership content versus their more traditional, sort of flatter marketing collateral. The customers are actively seeking inspiration. Let's take a look at how one such sales cycle unfolded for one of our clients. This is a software company that sells marketing software to large Fortune 500 companies. And we've taken an extract of one of their sales cycles and put it on this slide for you. Along the x-axis are the 22 different content pieces that this particular sales team used during this sales journey. On the y-axis are the number of views that each of those content pieces had by the buyer. So these are reasonably complex sales cycles, and a ton of information is shared back and forth between the two parties. But we found a couple of really interesting things. Number one, item D was a home run. It was viewed 5 different times from buyers at this particular customer site. But the flip side of that is that there are 5 items here that weren't viewed at all. And yet, for some reason, the sales team felt like these were content pieces that would be valuable to their buyer in educating them on their products and services and on the journey that they were on. In fact, that was not true. So what we do is we take all of this information and we go back to the VP of Sales and the VP of Marketing, and we share with them insights. What content is hot, what content isn't, which buyer persona responds to which content piece, and how to tune the dials within the opportunity cycle to create a more effective sales campaign. Solving the content problem alone, however, isn't going to cut it. Similar to the challenge of having this inwardly focused content, a lot of times the sales team is more focused on how they've been trained to sell than how the customer actually wants to buy, which in today's market involves multiple stakeholders and influences. So let's think about our dating metaphor for a moment and the notion of multiple stakeholders and influences. In this particular video vignette that I'm going to show you, you're going to meet a guy who's on a date with a girl, and he is aloof to the notion of outside influences and stakeholders. And we can see how that turns out for him. Let's watch.
So I'm so excited for you to meet Ray. When I worked here, he was like the best boss ever.
Yeah, it seems like a really great place to have worked in college. It's got
Hey,
that
Elise,
nice...
can I get you and your friend another round?
Hey, Ray, how's it going?
Johnny Appleseed. Hey, while you're here, can I get a drink that doesn't look like a Shirley Temple being served to a child in a Chinese restaurant? I mean, do I look like a child?
Yeah, no problem. Here's our specials tonight.
Great, thanks, Ray.
Great. Yeah, Mr. Mixology, just cut it. Can I get a beer? Thanks.
What do you want? Foreign, domestic, on the tap?
Beer me. Let's not overthink it, all right?
Sorry, Ray, a bottle's fine.
Yeah, and not in slow motion this time. Thanks.
You got it, man.
Thanks. You know, I don't think I even told you. You look beautiful. Really.
Thanks.
Like, your money.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, Kim, I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Kim, this is James.
Hey, James.
Kim. Hey, I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick. Why don't you guys just catch up, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, have fun.
Okay.
What's up?
Well, so I'm so excited. Brad should be here in a minute, and then we'll go to dinner. Italian is my... Are you on the phone?
Buddy, look, I haven't barfed in 3 years, so don't put that one on me.
Are you still on the phone?
Jeez. Hey, Ray, are you brewing the beer from barley back there? What's going on? Ray, where's that beer at? I'm getting parched over here. Ray, did you stumble and fall? Ray, do you have 2 left hands? Did I do something wrong? So close. You know her, right? Do you think she liked me? You think I have a shot still, or what? Ray.
So we intuitively know not to behave like James socially, and yet oftentimes we treat our customers unknowingly in that fashion. The fact that less than half of the deals in the forecast close indicates that we need to take a hard look at what that sales process is. And that process ought to begin by reframing our understanding of the sales process in terms of how customers want to buy. The biggest change to how customers want to buy is that this notion of the single buyer is just no longer relevant in today's marketplace. Complex committees form around these purchase decisions, partly as a result of the financial constraints put in place from the 2008 economic collapse, in which decision by committee is sort of more popular than ever. The problem that that poses for salespeople is really 2 things. One is they have to identify who's even on the committee, and most of the time they actually don't know that answer. And then number 2, they have to engage with every single member of that committee to try to get a yes, because any one no anywhere in that decision-making process will derail their deal in today's marketplace. So sales teams would be wise to cast a wide net to try to win the right hearts and minds through this process. And that begins with an understanding of where influence and power exists today. Influence and power are no longer hierarchical. Influence and power can be found in the depths of these organizations. These complex purchase decisions are made now by cross-functional committees across multiple lines of business and scaling multiple altitudes. And so sales leaders, they need to figure out how to recraft a sales strategy around capturing as much of this influence as possible so that they have the opportunity to engage it in the sales process. We see this every day in the deals that we analyze. Our customers' closed-won deals have 33% more buyers involved in them than their closed-loss deals. They're doing a great job of going out there and building a big tent so that they can capture that influence within the organization and have a shot at influencing a positive outcome. Let's take a look at how one such sales cycle unfolded for one of our clients. These guys sell enterprise software to large retailers, and Matt's the sales rep, and he recently walked out of his first sales call, and he knew that Harry was his economic buyer because of what was on Harry's business card. The other 4 people in the first sales meeting, he didn't have such a great understanding as to who was sort of going to step up and champion the evaluation. They had roughly the same title, and so he walked out of there having a good understanding as to who was going to be the ultimate buyer, but not a really good understanding as to how he was going to get there. So what Matt did was he leveraged our content analytics to find that Gretchen was actually consuming his content rather voraciously. She was consuming content at 5x the pace of her peers. So what this allowed Matt to do was understand that Gretchen was actually developing as a champion, and she was going to have the influence on Harry in making this purchase decision. So Matt was able to recraft his sales strategy very quickly around serving the needs of Gretchen to Harry. This notion of exchanging content in B2B is really quickly becoming a battleground for sales differentiation. I don't know how many of you were in the LinkedIn presentation earlier this morning, but the notion of using video on your LinkedIn profile is very quickly becoming a differentiator for individual sales contributors. So let's talk about the difference between systems of engagement and systems of record. To be very clear, a system of record is like a one-way street in which the sales rep is begrudgingly forced to put information into it and gets very little in return. A system of engagement, on the other hand, is like a two-way street in which the rep is actively rewarded for the content that they're contributing. Let's take this notion of tools differentiation and apply it to our dating metaphor again. And take a look at a scenario in which Stanley, who is a totally nice guy, is made hapless by his inability to embrace some of these modern tools. Let's watch.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
I think I've seen you around here a couple times. How'd you find out about this place?
I found it on Foursquare, actually. What about you?
You know what? I'm more of a hopscotch kid myself. I'm Stanley.
I'm Jessie.
Yeah, 1L. I mean, I just want to come over and maybe see what you're up to tonight. You want to grab a drink, grab a bite to eat. What do you think?
I'm actually meeting friends downtown to see a band later.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess I could send you an invite via Facebook. What's your full name?
Stanley Wilson. There's no A in Wilson.
I don't see you. I guess we don't know anybody.
I mean, I'm not on Facebook.
Oh. Well, what's your email address? I'll email you the information.
Well, it's stanley.wilson@idonthaveanemail.com. I just disconnect from all that, to be honest.
Instagram. Twitter.
Denied.
Vine.
Don't do horticulture.
Okay. LinkedIn?
Have you seen The Matrix?
What does that have to do with anything?
Robots controlling my brain? No, thank you.
You know, the time, I'm actually late for a meeting, so
Okay,
I've gotta go.
Why don't you just write your number down?
Maybe I'll see you around here
No,
sometime.
wait. Let me ask you one more thing. Do you like folk music? I have 3 horses.
I'm going to go back one slide for a moment. So 10 years ago, a line was drawn in the sand in dating between those who can take advantage of modern dating tools and those who can't, right? The eHarmony Matches of the world went on to be sort of very, very successful platforms for people to meet other people. And we would argue that the same thing is sort of happening today in enterprise sales, which is a line's being drawn in the sand between those reps who can take advantage of some of these innovative new technologies to reach the customer and those who can't. There is no more blunt way to explain sales rep sentiment about their primary system of record for the last 15 years than this chart. 70% of sales reps say that LinkedIn is more essential to their success than Salesforce.com, which probably explains why in September, for the first time ever, LinkedIn, with only 1/3 of the revenues of Salesforce, achieved a greater market capitalization in the public markets. Then again, is it really all that surprising? After $75 billion of investment in CRM projects that have largely failed, have we achieved that vision of creating a more intimate and personalized customer relationship? Probably not. We would argue that CRM is a very important part of the enterprise front office architecture, but that it serves to mechanize the customer relationship more than it does engage and manage it, which is why we see sales reps every day doing CRM-like activities outside of CRM. LinkedIn being the biggest example. You know, the other system of record for sales reps is email. On the one hand, it's been the cornerstone of information sharing in sales for the last 20 years. On the other hand, your customers are drowning in it to the tune of 600 fresh emails per week. And your sales and marketing departments are continuing to flood that inbox with content. Content, I might add, that you know was sent, but you have little understanding as to how it was received or reacted to on the customer side. The fact is, email doesn't hold social obligation in the buyer-seller dynamic like it did as recently as a decade ago. Customers just don't feel obligated to respond to your emails. And sales reps know this. The ones that we surveyed said that they leave about 15 emails a day for customers and get a response rate of roughly 30% or less. Don't even get me started on voicemail. Voicemail as a channel of delivering content is even more broken. Its usage is actually on the decline. The reps that we spoke with say they leave maybe 10 voicemails a day for customers with a response rate of less than 25%. So, one of the ways to reintroduce the notion of social obligation into this buyer-seller dynamic is through systems of engagement. And the reason is the @ symbol, or not the symbol itself, but the implications of the @ symbol. Let me explain. Researchers point to dopamine as the primary biological driver of the rise of social networking technologies. Being @mentioned on Twitter, being tagged in a Facebook photo, being endorsed on LinkedIn, these are very simple but powerful triggers of dopamine. In fact, scientists say that even our pursuit of those triggers, even looking for that endorsement on LinkedIn or that @mention on Twitter, can create a dopamine rush for the user, which is why dozens, if not hundreds, of both private and public social tools use these features to drive user behavior. We see this in the deals that we analyze. One of our customers was brave enough to recently take their sales cycle, one of their sales cycles, out of email entirely as a means of differentiating how they sell. What you're looking at is how that engagement with the customer, with their customer, unfolded over time. So the green line is the number of content uploads into our collaborative spaces that included an @mention of the customer. The orange line is the customer's response to that, the buyer's view of that content. So what we see here is two interesting things. One is, unlike email, we can see a rather direct correlation between when the sales team takes an action, the action in this case is take a piece of content, thought leadership, rich media, proposal, whatever that content is, put it into a collaborative space and @mention the buyer. The buyer then receives an automated notification from our system that says, hey, you've been mentioned in this conversation, click here to learn more. And for whatever reason, it creates a prioritization in the buyer's inbox that's different than what a flat traditional email from the sales rep would produce. And it's because that user has been trained about the value of being mentioned in a conversation. It's really exciting. So the second thing that we found in this particular analysis was that twice during this sales process, the orange line actually outstrips the green line. Right? The buyer is viewing the content with multiple people on that buyer side multiple times. That is the definition of engagement in this sales process. In fact, we see that orange line drastically outstrip the green line towards the end of the sales cycle, which is just a wonderful signal for a VP of sales to have. So what we're finding is that these consumer social tools are retraining the entire workforce on new ways to communicate and collaborate. We were actually stunned to see that half of the reps that we surveyed use Facebook and Twitter as a means of subverting the customer inbox, as a means of engaging with that customer in a differentiated and unique way, out of the traditional means, which is email. The other thing that we found is that reps are not just flocking to systems of engagement, they're flocking to what we would call devices of engagement, which in this case is mobile. 80% of them say they do away with the laptop and just go mobile. So, what does all of this mean? Well, customers are more informed than ever, and they just have little patience for reps who aren't adding value. Sales reps have learned, successful ones at least, that the path to that success is not through focusing on closing a one-off transaction with that customer, but building a relationship that's based in authenticity. And more than ever, the sales teams have learned that buying has become a group sport, and they're trying to adapt to that group sport. In just 6 short years, millennials will represent 50% of the workforce in this country. My advice to you, don't be timid. Millennials are a totally different breed. They have little tolerance for boredom, low attention spans, and above all else, they want to be treated as a person who is unique and special. Unfortunately, a lot of times your content, your tools, and your process aren't optimized to cater to that persona. But you can fix it. It's not that difficult. You can create content that inspires your customer, content that includes your own thought leadership content, third-party thought leadership content, rich media. You can energize your sales process by de-emphasizing how your teams ought to sell and instead thinking about how the customer wants to buy, which involves multiple stakeholders and influences within the organization. And you can differentiate yourselves with the tools you use. The guys at LinkedIn have done a great job of creating a highly differentiated way for you to penetrate an account through relationships. Email is not the only channel for delivering content to customers, and there's a battleground right now on differentiation of the sales process. Okay, so I'd like to pause here and share with you some insights that stay in Vegas as we sort of wrap towards a conclusion to the presentation. So 3 quick insights that stay in Vegas. No wonder your sales forecasts are off. 50% of your reps admit to regularly sandbagging their deals. The majority of reps we surveyed say they know exactly who the bottom performers are, and they would fire a quarter of your sales force tomorrow. And this next one's a doozy. 1/3 of your reps admit to having taken a customer to a strip club. Call your HR department immediately. So, I hope you guys have had a lot of fun with this. I'd like to take some questions from the iPad app that I've got up here. So feel free to fire those questions away or just raise your hand. At the conclusion of the presentation, I'd invite you to do 2 things. One, stop by our kiosk to meet the actors from today's video vignettes. Newsflash, they're not actors at all. They're members of our sales and marketing team. Incredibly talented and good-looking group of people, you would probably agree. And the second thing I would encourage you to do is stop by and get your snarky, one-of-a-kind, tongue-in-cheek badge flare. It says that I'm a presenter, I'm also huge in Japan, I snuck in here, I'm here for the drinks, and I'm kind of a big deal. So feel free to come by the booth and we'll get you hooked up with your badge flare. I will turn it over to you now for comments or questions about what you've learned today.